Today I'm going to be creating a holiday card and I'm going to be making a custom textured background. Think along the lines of those debossing cover plate dies that you can get. Hey crafty people, it's Tasha. Welcome back to my channel. If you like the video, please do give me a thumbs up. If you aren't already subscribed, I'd love it if you'd consider hitting that button. So these are the products that I'm going to be using. I've got two of the just the layered sets, the A2 rectangles and the circles. Then this is the stitched Winter Winds die, the Season's Greetings cut and foil, and the layering Pine Forest stencil. So I'm lining up the first part of the stencil onto an A2 panel of Superior White cardstock from Wow. And I am speeding through this a little bit because I have actually done another video on this stencil, so I will have that linked up above in the cards if you feel like you want a bit more information on how it works. But what I wanted to show you is that this is a 6-piece stencil, but you don't need 6 different inks in order to use it. So I've chosen 3 of my favourite blues. These are Catherine Pooler inks, and I'm just, the first time I use that ink, I apply it with a really light hand, and then on the next stencil I apply the same ink but with a much heavier hand, and then I swap to the next ink, and I continue like that until I've got all 6 layers done. And it's just an easy way to use these kinds of stencils if you don't have lots and lots of inks. So there's my finished stencil. Then this is the liquid pixie dust from Ink on 3, and I'm just showing you there that it does settle when you've not been using it, but it mixes up really quickly. There's a little ball bearing in there, so just give it a really good shake. You'll hear that ball kind of batting around inside there, and you can see that it's all mixed back together nicely. So if you have it and it looks like mine did at first, don't worry. So I've just added a few drops onto this. Is just an old card, the gift card that I'd got, and I'm just using a paintbrush to just splatter some of that on. So I'm going to set that aside to dry, and then now is when we're going to work on a background. So this is the Stitched Winds Autumn Breeze Winter Winds. It came out in the autumn release, but it also works with the Winter Winds stamp set that came out in this last release. So I've got, this is a panel of £120 accent opaque cardstock, because I want a really thick cardstock to stand up to how many times I'm going to be running this through my die machine. So this die, it doesn't actually cut, it just presses a stitched pattern all over your cardstock. So I put it in once, then I flipped it so it was on the other side of my cardstock, and I ran that through again. Now you could leave it at that, but I decided that I wanted to just fill up the little extra bits of space that there were just here, there and everywhere around the panel. But you want to make sure that you start by filling the centre, and then you can add the little bits onto the edges easily enough. So as you can see, because I need it to be able to fit through my die cutting machine, I am having to sort of twist and turn it to get it right, but that's no problem. And when I'm finished, I have this really awesome textured background without having to invest in one of those cover plate dies, because, you know, not all of us have the funds to buy everything like that, am I right? So I like to repurpose what I've got. So now my Pine Forest is dry, and I'm going to cut a circle. This is the 3rd largest from that set, from the Pine Forest, and then I'm cutting the next size up from some blue textured metallic-y cardstock that I've got. I did cut a circle from the centre of that because I didn't want to waste the cardstock, and I'm just layering that pine forest piece on top of the blue circle, so that just gives me a nice little frame. So I'm deciding where I want this to sit on my panel, and then I'm just going to add a bit of wet glue and stick it on. So I decided to have it down in the lower right hand side, just sort of sticking off my panel a little bit. So off camera I've also die cut the pieces that I need for my sentiment. I've got the Season's Greetings. I've got it cut from some silver glitter cardstock, and then I've layered that on top of one of the, I cut it from some of that blue cardstock as well. So I'm showing you here, I want to have part of my sentiment on that circle and part of it off, but it'd be sitting a bit uneven because, you know, that circle is like 1 and a bit pieces of cardstock thick. So I die cut the start of each of the words again from that blue cardstock. So I decided where I wanted it to sit, and I knew that really I just needed the G and the R to have that extra layer, so I've glued those on, and then when I attach my word sentiment onto the card, it's going to sit nice and level, which is brilliant. So before I went ahead and stuck the Seasons part on, I thought I had better cut that edge off because I didn't want to end up sticking it onto a part of it that I was intending to cut off. So I ended up with the Seasons. I just went for it all on the forest panel bit, so I didn't need to worry about adding any extra layers to it. So I'm just adding the little apostrophe and then the little tiddle, which is the dot above the I. Ever since I learnt that word, I just love it. I really, really love it. It's just so sweet. It just makes me chuckle. So I'm adding one blue tiddle and then adding another dot of glue and adding the silver tiddle on top. I did decide to accent my card with some of the silver gems, just sort of place them randomly around that circle. So that's my card. I hope that you'll give it a go. If you do, like me, you like a little bit of texture on your plain white backgrounds, then have a look through your stash, see what dies you've got that you could use. So I hope that you like the card. Leave us a comment below. I've got another video up on the screen that I think that you might be interested in, and if you aren't already subscribed, then I'd love it if you'd please consider it. Have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.